What's up, guys? John back with another video. Today we're going to talk about something that I kind of find a little bit intriguing, and it's kind of something that has came back, into my life over the course of 9 years down the road, and I just thought it was interesting that somebody had asked me, excuse me, my personal opinion on and I don't claim to be no gun expert or nothing like that. I just I'm very big into firearms. I do shoot all the time. I go to a lot of training courses, a lot of classes. I stay diligent with it, so definitely knowledgeable when it comes to firearms and everything like that. But one thing that I used to do a lot of studying on when I was younger was BB guns or airsoft pellet guns, particularly gas CO2 powered ones that you're running something of this magnitude, a Crossman canister like this, and it's usually a 12-gram CO2 gas cartridge. And pretty much when I was younger, I was kind of fascinated with firearms, but I was always scared of them, like very, very, very scared of them. So I always was interested in them, but like I said, very scared. So I never really wanted no part of them. So when I got a little bit older, about 17, 18 years old, I just happened to be at a sporting store one day, and I just happened to look down this random aisle, and I started seeing stuff like this. Nice Beretta PX4 store model. It was something that I was very intrigued by because, as you all know, most of them have the orange tip, which obviously makes it look extremely fake, and that's for good reason. That's for the reason that you don't want to be, 17 years old running around with a gun that looks completely realistic, and, God forbid some cop sees you and you get shot and killed because of that. So that's the main reason for those being on there, so you know that it's fake, it's not real. However, this one didn't have that. I didn't take it off. It didn't have one. So it was kind of interesting. When I saw it, I was like, wow, and me being young and dumb, I was like, man, I do want a gun that looks real, and that's not really real though. And of course, you're talking price point, under $100. So you're comparing, apples to oranges when you're talking, a $700 firearm to a $100 CO2 BB gun. So it was quite interesting when I first started looking at it. And I remember I thought about it for a good day, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to consider buying that thing. And I ended up buying it. So, the reason why I'm bringing this into this video is I have a cousin that's younger, and he sees my gun collection and everything that I deal with guns, and he's starting to get a little fascinated by it, and he was asking me, to start off, what would be the best suggestion. And like I said, I'm not no professional. I'm not no gun expert. So, my opinion is really not based off any facts or evidence. It's based off just my personal experience. So I explained to him, I said, when I was your age, younger, I was really, really petrified of firearms and how loud they were and everything related to them. And I got really nervous about them. So what I did was I bought a pellet gun, a CO2 pellet gun, and he was like asking me all about it. He's like, oh, what does that do? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, it's a gun that, shoots pellets that are, or BBs that, most familiar is the daisies that everyone knows about. But you put the little cartridge in there, plug it all in, you're good to go. And you just, fill the magazine up, which this one has a double-sided reversible 8-round, as you can tell, 8 rounds in there. And you could put a BB, a pellet, and it's just got a little rotary deal that you just rotary around, and that's it. You're good to go. And I explained to him, I said, so what I ended up doing when I was your age was I bought my first pellet gun when I was about 17, 18 years old, and I kind of taught myself how to be efficient with it, how to use it. Because the one benefit I will say massively when it comes to CO2 pellet guns, especially replica ones as of this one, is they have the look and the feel of the real thing. So it's very good to be able to sit there and mess around with something that literally looks like the real deal. So, if you want to practice, dry firing, racking, If you want just the overall feel, get your, your grip down, everything like that. You can't go wrong with something like this because, and the great thing about this particular model is it does have blowback action. So every time a round goes off, you get the blowback action, which is, it's nothing near the real deal. But it's still very cool how it does that and how it gives you a general conclusion as to what it's going to feel like. So, I explained to him, I was like, what I would do if I were you is I would start off by getting a pellet gun and work your way, into getting familiar with it, getting the feels of it. And then after that, see how you like it. And if you like it and you want to go bigger, then go get to a real firearm. Start off with a 380 or a 22 or something of that nature. So, it's kind of where we left it off at. And he thought about it, and he does ask me, he says, so when you first got your pellet gun, how were you reacting with it? And I was like, to be honest with you, I was, very foolish mentally. I didn't do anything foolishly, but mentally I was very foolishly. I felt like I was invincible. I felt like if anything ever happened, I could just, pull this out and, throw the cartridge in there real quick and twist it all around and blah, 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 and, slap it all back in there and then just always keep this magazine loaded with pellets in here. So in my mind, I thought, oh, if anything ever happens, I can protect myself, no problem. That wouldn't be an issue at all. And that's how I was. The first, year or two that I had this thing, I used to carry this thing. I bought a holster for it and everything, and I would carry it, and I would use it, to protect my life if it ever needed to get to that point, as what I thought I would do. Obviously the older I got, the more I learned about firearms and everything like that, I realized that this is nowhere near something that could save your life. In most cases, it probably just magnify the intensity of the issue that you're experiencing with the other assailants. So, because I know these things are powerful. There's no doubt about it. You can shoot through cardboard boxes. You can shoot through metal cans. They got some good power to them. And if you hit someone in the right area, it's very possible that it could definitely scare them away or make them fall, and just in shock in general. Or just the actual aspect of this thing pulling out. Like if you don't see anything, the next thing you know, you see this. You're not going to spend much time trying to figure out if that's a real hole or the real size of a real gun hole or if that's a BB hole. Nobody in their right mind is going to want to sit there and study this thing and try to put that to bed. But like I said, I was really gullible with it. I used to keep a cartridge in here all the time. I would always keep it in there, not fully compressed, because if you do keep it fully compressed, it will lose gas over time, and then it would render it useless when you need to use it. So I would leave it in there, just sitting in there, and then I would practice on quickly, unstrapping this again, twisting it, slapping it in there, putting the mag back in there, and be good to go. And I would do that literally for hours at a time. And it's funny though, like I said, because I was just talking to him, and I was explaining to him. I said, in my opinion, I would not recommend using a pellet or a BB airsoft gun for personal protection. Just too many factors can really alter the progress of that pellet that's flying out. Just a little gust of wind could totally redirect that whole travel of the pellet. Just a simple thin hoodie of this magnitude, this is gonna stop it all day, every day. Unless you start getting into the high powered 22 caliber pellets, with over 1,000 feet per second. That's when you start talking something that could penetrate, decent thick clothing, but in reality, you're not going to walk around with that because it's a full size, 15-inch barrel rifle that shoots pellets, and you're not going to do that. No one in their right mind is going to do that. So, going back to something like this, scare factor, yeah, of course. You look at this thing, and most people are not going to question it. Obviously gun people that really know guns, and I own 2 of these real ones in my personal life. So the Beretta PX4 Storm, I know right away when I look at this, I could definitely tell you it's not real. But most people don't know that, and if you've never personally owned a Beretta PX4 Storm, you're not going to know like what's not the same and what's altered compared to the real one opposed to the fake one. But like I said, that's a chance you gotta be willing to take. If you're willing to, last ditch effort, pull this thing out and rack it and hope that that bad guy runs away. There's a very slim chance that that could happen. And that's what I explained to him. I said, I'm going to be honest with you, man. It's very, very possible that this could be a scare factor, or a scare tool. And it's very possible that it can aggravate the situation even worse. Because, there are bad guys out there that see something and they get scared. And when a bad guy gets scared shitless, what does he do? He comes back even harder or he runs away. There's only two options. And you're going to startle someone that thinks they're just going to simply, rob your pockets. And next thing you know, you're going to draw this and they're going to draw their real piece of shit, stolen, serial number scratched, 32 or, something of that nature. And they're going to shoot you within a real life and you're going to be dead, all because you were trying to play the role of being able to protect yourself. And at the end of the day, he's in the wrong and he's doing the bad stuff, but he's going to try to protect his ass too. So when it comes down to something like this, they're fun to go take and shoot at the range or whatever. Not like a real gun range, but like, some set up in your backyard with, 20, 30 yards away. They're fun for that, if you want to shoot some cans, or if you want to do some squirrel hunting, stuff like that, which I don't do. I live in the city, but for, friends of mine, they do that, and they have multiple of these, and they love them, This one shoots, I think, about 380 feet per second, so it's not the fastest of them. It's not the slowest either, so... But it's got, the problem is the blowback, which is very realistic and very nice, unfortunately takes away from the power. So, you can get, some pellet guns that are with no blowback, shooting 400 feet per second, 450 feet per second. In reality, how much of a difference is that going to make? I really can't tell you. I mean, maybe it'll get you through a couple sheets of paper more than, 380. But yeah, just in a nutshell, I really wanted to explain that to my little cousin. Like, buying something like this is not a toy. I'm not trying to sound like some old parent or something like that, but it's not a toy. This is something that is intended to, technically, in my opinion, this is designed to train yourself, to get used to the feel of a firearm, to get used to the trigger, to get used to, how it feels when you rack it and one-handed use and, other hand use. And just, overall, like, getting used to a feel of the firearm. And this is a full size, so it's a lot bigger if we compare it to my other Beretta, my Pico, which is my 380 caliber. Obviously, the size is drastically different. I could hide pretty much my Beretta Pico. But, that's how this works. When I first started getting into firearms, this is how I started. I started off with something like this. It taught me, like I said, not to be scared of firearms, and it taught me to get used to the feel and holding and loading it with something. I know it's not a bullet, but you're still loading it with something, and it projects out. You see it shoot something. It was definitely nice to see that happen and learn how everything works, just with the firearm itself. And I will praise this a lot because it did teach me a lot of just the overall feeling and status of a firearm and how they work, and because it's very comparable. It doesn't have a firing pin or anything like that, obviously, but as far as overall gun, it's very comparable when you feel it, when you shoot it. It's very, very comparable to a real live firearm of this caliber, obviously, like a small 22 or something like that. So I told him, I said, it's definitely something that you could be interested in playing around with, having a good time with. No, I would not use it for self-protection. I know there's tons of videos out there for pellet guns and BB guns for personal protection and home protection. I would not personally recommend that. At that point, and I get it. There are people that can't afford a real gun, or in their city or state doesn't allow a real gun. I get it, and at the end of the day, is it better than nothing? Absolutely. It is better than nothing. I'm not going to ever say that this is not better than nothing. So, can it work? Yeah, it can. But are you willing to take that chance? That's the question you got to ask yourself. So I thought I'd make a quick video on that because, he was kind of making me relive this. I haven't touched this thing in probably 5 years. I just pulled it out of my basement. After we were talking about it, and the more I talked to him about it, the more I looked it up and thought about it. I started going online and finding all these videos about people saying, it was pellet guns for personal protection. And it's funny because when I was younger, I used to use this as my personal protection tool. This is what I used. I used to holster it, everything. I'd always kept the extra mag, everything side by side. And to get off topic real quick, when it gets cold out, anything under, I think, like 40 degrees, these things become very weak. So the gas cartridge doesn't hold pressure as well. It's just nowhere near as powerful as it is when it's warmer out. And I'm not talking like blistering hot, but a little bit warmer. So that's a huge problem too. I live in a cold state, so in the wintertime, this is pretty much useless, especially if it's going to be 30 degrees. I'm not going to be able to get anything off with this. And if you do get a few off, the pressure loss that you obtain after every pellet, it's just more and more and more and more. So it just becomes weaker and weaker and weaker. So that kind of just sums everything up in a nutshell. I didn't mean to ramble on so long, but he had me really thinking about this long and hard, and he kind of brought back some old memories of, before I got into firearms and all that good stuff. And he did ask the question, would you rely on something like this for personal protection or home defense or anything like that? And I wanted to give him my honest opinion and wanted to do the research on it and see. And like I said, when it comes down to it, I really just can't recommend it. If you are going to do something like this because you have no other option, this is your only hope. Excuse me. You can get away with it, but if you're going to do it, I'd recommend definitely using something of this nature, like a Premier hollow point, just to give you a little bit more expand and a little bit more damage. Or something like this, which is a Gammo. They claim this is an armor-piercing round, which obviously that's not the case. Let me see if that focuses. No, not enough light. Sorry about that. But they claim this is a armor-piercing pellet. It is a powerful pellet, though. I will say that. And if, like I said, I was trying to defend my life, I wouldn't be opposed to having this loaded in my gun, and using this as my protection. See how it's got like a copper tip on there. So it's definitely something that will make a difference. It's definitely something that's going to hurt. Is it going to penetrate clothes? No. Is it going to penetrate jeans? No. So that's where you got to kind of draw the line. It's fun to use and shoot and have a good time. But I told him eventually get to that point where you train yourself and you learn how to use a real firearm. Because like I said, there's just nothing, that's comparable to a real gun. And, I explained to him, I said, this is what you need to learn. You need to learn how to use a real firearm, train with it diligently. And then, the first time you buy a gun, it's going to be scary. You're not going to be, unless you're born and raised with guns, which I wasn't. So it was scary for me when I bought my first handgun. But yeah, it's something that you want to learn with and really get to that point where you're comfortable, you feel safe with it, it doesn't bother you, all that good stuff. So, like I said, I just thought I'd give my 2 cents in there. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave me a comment. Please subscribe and like. It would mean the world to me. I am working on building my YouTube channel slowly. I do work 75 hours a week, and I'm trying to get the time to, edit my own videos, make the videos, the content, everything like that. So, like I said, if you have any questions, concerns, feel free to, comment, share, post, anything you have. So, thanks again for your time. You have a good day. So real quick, I was actually looking through some of my shooting with this little BB gun, pellet gun, and I thought it'd be interesting to show you. So, this is a hollow point right here, just your typical 17, excuse me, your typical 177. And let me see. So I want to show you real quick. So like I said, this is how it looks. It's got the little hollow point in the center. It's kind of hard to see because it's very, very minimal. But that's a hollow point, little pellet hollow point round right here. So just to give you an idea though, do they actually expand? they definitely do. That's how one looks after it makes contact with something kind of hard, but you could definitely see like it's it's a lot wider, and they definitely pancake. If they were a little bit more powerful, yeah, it'd be awesome that this thing could travel a little faster, a little bit more pound-feet, of energy, yeah, it would definitely do some damage, because you look at these things, they got some real sharp, rigid edges to them. It's double the size in width when it expanded. So they definitely work. There's no doubt about that. So try to see if I can get you a close-up on this so you can see. I know it's kind of hard. My camera doesn't want to focus for some reason. Try to get you the before and after on there so you get an idea of the difference on that. Bear with me. I'll grab my camera. All right. So, all right. So that's the expanded one. That's the non-expanded one that hasn't been used yet. So just so you can see the difference, it's pretty drastic. There's no doubt about it. All right, guys. Thanks again.